Who did you say that poet was? Wendell Berry. I like that. And no matter how many times it happens, I still get kind of choked up when the poem or the song is exactly where I'm headed. That sense of oneness, that sense of connection, that sense of this was fated at the beginning of time, that is exactly the type of relationship that I would suggest to you you can build with your personal experience of God, and that is what leads to inner peace. This month we're talking about compassion, which is what happens when two equals come together, recognize their oneness, and work toward a better world together. Now, one of them at the beginning might have been experiencing some kind of pain. I have heard that labor is somewhat painful even with epidurals. And having said that, nurses and doctors come together with compassion, or, ranchers and fur baby mommy and daddies. It's a new word. Just roll with it. You too. Everyone comes together in order to help bring this life into the world. And I would be willing to bet that there is not a person involved in that process that says, little child, now that you're in the world, you don't deserve to be here. Has anyone ever heard that said in maybe on TV? Everyone that has moved onto this planet, four-legged, two-legged, no-legged, is absolutely deserving of its own existence. And within that existence is the existence of what we call God. The divine wants to exist at this level. And so it contemplated itself, and we moved into being. We are the result of God's self-contemplation. And so that relationship of heifer and calf, that relationship of the beloved with the beloved, that is the relationship that we search for with the divine. And so most of us were raised on fairy tales that ended and they lived. Right. Yeah. Anybody else just be like, uh-huh. Then why do we have so many marriage and family therapists? It's because that happily ever after isn't promised as easy. Relationships, whether it's a marriage, whether it's parent and child, whether it's co-workers, it requires a certain level of work. Yes? Okay, anybody who answered no is a rock and an island, very 60s. Sorry, I couldn't think of Simon and Garfunkel's names for a second there. And the most intimate of relationships that I have ever heard described is that of mystic with God. And so we have poets. We have people like Rumi and Hafiz. We have the discussion, what has been shared and written by mystics from all over the world across time. There's a mystic by the name of, there's someone who studies mystics by the name of Leonardo Boff, who says, of that intense relationship with the divine, this communion can be so intense, say the mystics of every tradition, that the soul of the beloved is fused with the lover in an experience of non-duality. By grace, we participate in God's very being. By grace. Grace is that thing which we don't need to earn and couldn't earn if we had to. Grace is that even better than a get-out-of-jail-free card. Grace is that surprise trip to grandma's house where everything you say and do is still adorable. Does anyone have someone like that in their lives? I used to say that my Auntie Helen would, if I came to her with a dead body, she would congratulate me on the style with which I killed it. And then she'd feed me. Everybody should have one of those. But in order to have that kind of an intimate relationship, one must put time and intention and energy into it. And one must do it every single day. It's like riding a bike. Yes, you pedal hard and you pedal hard and you pedal hard, but what happens if you stop pedaling? You keep going for a while, especially if you're going downhill, but eventually you're going to fall over if you're not still putting energy into that forward movement in the relationship. So, in religious science, in our textbook, it says we must daily reverse our position in the law. What does that mean? The law is the law of cause and effect. Our position in it is what we are thinking that has created the world we're living in. In the world we're living in, you might have noticed there's a few things that are a little, hinky. Lack of world peace. The fact that we still have a Memorial Day because we still remember people from our own families who died in war. I live for the day. There's nobody around to celebrate Memorial Day because nobody can remember a war or what it was like. That, to me, would be the greatest memorial we could give those who gave their lives, is to rise above that way of handling things and say, we recognize that sacrifice as so huge that we don't want to ask it of anyone ever again. And that's all I have to say about Memorial Day. So we do our daily prayer work because we must have inner peace before we'll have that outer peace. Could you imagine, think of the people you know that are really, really into drama. Those people are always at war with themselves, right? Now think of somebody you know who tends to be pretty peaceful and laid back. They're not a doormat, but they tend to just kind of go with the flow. They're pretty peaceful within themselves. They obviously have gotten to know themselves and done their shadow work and everything else. It's going to be hard to get those people to fight hard because they're so at peace that they're going to pull peace into their world. And that peace would infect the entire planet. Planet. I don't know what that is. So Ernest Holmes taught us that the one who wishes scientifically to work out his problems must daily take the time to meditate and mentally treat the condition, no matter what apparent contradictions may be. We must daily take the time to essentially cry BS at all the stuff that we think is going wrong in the world. And I will remind you, BS stands for belief system. Get your mind out of the gutter. So we have to call, that's just a belief system that we are holding on anything that we see as not like God within the world. And so I've had these conversations several times. Last week, I talked about a gentleman by the name of, oh, that helps. Rutger Bregman, who did a talk called Poverty Isn't a Lack of Character, It's a Lack of Cash. And what I didn't get into is one of the suggestions he makes, and I want you just to play this thought experiment with me for a minute. One of his suggested changes that we could make so that we could get rid of poverty in the world is to give out cash. to give out a guaranteed amount of income that raises everybody out of poverty. Now, as I say that, I want you to listen carefully to your own voice in your head. Oh my God, nobody would ever do anything ever again, right? Nobody would go to work. Why are we hurting those people by giving that? Now, I have had my experiences with codependence. Believe me, I rock at it. I am so good at being the savior and not helping with my helping. And I would ask you to join with me in examining whether or not it's just our belief system that says that would never work, or if there is scientific data that backs it. Emma Curtis Hopkins said, "Believe what you will, report your results." In the 21st century, we get basically the same question with, how's that working for you? That was her 19th century version of Dr. Phil. Do you know that empty homes in America outnumber our homeless 6-1? We don't have a homelessness problem because we have homes for everybody. What we have is a thinking problem and a creativity problem and a belief system problem that says, if I help you, somehow it won't be enough. Somehow I will be doing harm. Somehow the way we have always lived, where things take precedence over people and you have to earn grace somehow, we have the ability to change that thought. Now, I'm pushing this way to the edge, guys. I am not offering my now empty bedroom to anyone. Not even the cats, not this week. What I'm saying is that the data supports having a guaranteed minimum income. Do you know that Richard Nixon tried to get that through? He got talked out of it at the last minute by people. You know, the experts were saying this works, we've done the research, we have years and years worth of experiments. Richard Nixon had an advisor who went to fear and said, no, we can't do that. And so it never got off the ground. I don't know whether it would work. If somebody wants to write me a huge check every week, I'm not going to argue. Hello. And I'll probably spend some of it stupidly. I will probably spend some of it on clothes that I will never wear, or food I really did not need to be eating. But what if we were so into that relationship with the divine within that we recognized it in everyone else? What if we were so away from the hypnotism that says we are separate from God? If we had rethunk everything, what if we could live within the idea that not only do I absolutely trust the divine within me, I trust the divine within you? The things that get in the way of inner peace tend to be around the belief in separation. As a practitioner, I was taught there is only one problem that anyone will ever come to you with, and it is a belief that they are separate from God. And the fix will always be recognition of the truth of our oneness. I don't need to fix the person. I need to help them come back to their right mind. And so if you read the monthly book this week is a book called The Eye of the Storm. And The Eye of the Storm, I've taken classes with the man. You'd think I could think of his name. Reverend Dr. Gary Simmons. What he says and what he teaches in his book, The Eye of the Storm, and it's I like the letter I, me, the eye of the storm. What he says is begin to think, no one and nothing is against me. What if you lived your life as if no one and nothing could be against you. No one is trying to get the job you want. No one is trying to date your spouse. No one is trying to hurt your kids. No one and nothing is against you. How would your life look different? What if no one and nothing was against you in your prosperity? And if that was true, it meant no one was against anyone else in their prosperity. What would that look like? If we will cultivate the belief that no one and nothing is against any one of us, eventually peace is going to break out all over the world, and we'll have to deal with that particular pandemic. It's better than the flu, guys. So, the eye of the storm suggests that there are 4 things or characteristics, what he called 4 winds, that get in the way that create this lack of peace. The first one is that thing about a sense of separation. Emma Curtis Hopkins says, I will tell you that between you and your good, which belongs to you, which you ought to have, is your idea of the absence of good. The only thing standing between you and perfect inner peace, perfect paradise, perfect power, perfect joy, perfect love, is your belief that somehow it is absent from you. And so that belief in separation is the primary thing getting in everyone's way. The second one is misperception, and there's a quotation that is attributed to the Talmud that says, we see things not as they are, but as we are. And so if there's a part of me that says, if my life got too easy, I wouldn't work hard enough, there's a part of me that says that and then projects it onto other people. Now, at one point this past week, I said to somebody, if somebody were to give me a guaranteed income, I'd never work again. And they looked at me and started laughing. Because that would last, 5 minutes, and I'd get bored. Most of us want to be giving to the world. As a matter of fact, I would suggest to you that every person wants to be giving back to their brothers and sisters in the Christ consciousness. Everybody has a will toward creativity because everybody is an embodiment of the divine creator. In some way, they want to give. So there's that possible misperception. Then there's competition, the idea that if one wins, the other must lose. For me to have enough, somebody else has to not have enough, so it's not okay for me to have enough. Or, contrary-wise, if I don't have enough, it's because some other person took mine. There's an old Scottish proverb that says, what's for you can't go by you. What's for you can't go by you. That which is yours, that good that is yours, that you ought to have, according to Emma Curtis Hopkins, cannot eventually be kept away from you. The only thing that can keep it from coming into your life is your refusal to take it. Now, you might have good reasons. Remember I said that if you wanted a real relationship with the divine, you have to put the energy into it? The struggle that I have dealt with my entire spiritual life is not wanting that relationship with the divine and refusing to sit in my prayer chair because I didn't trust the divine, because I have authority issues, in case you didn't notice. And so for me to sit down in my prayer chair and get intimate with the divine that lives within me has taken a lot of work. And I got to tell you, this week, it all got blown out of the water. I moved all the chairs. I couldn't find it. I was busy doing other things. I made other things more important. And then I copped an attitude with God saying, well, I don't need to talk to you. You can't make me. I'm going to eat ice cream instead because that always works. First of all, that intimate relationship with the divine is always there for you. It is always there for you. You don't have to earn it. And the only being hurt by your refusal to be in that relationship, or to be honest, my refusal to be in that relationship sometimes, is me. It's not hurting God. God's still standing there with all the gifts in his, her hands, going, are we ready yet? It's like the kid in the back of the car. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? How about now? I have a friend who will stop the car and say, yes, get out. So there's that competition. There's also defensiveness. That fear that underneath it all, we don't deserve the good. And so we think if anyone's talking about more good, somehow it's a criticism of us. Now, I've lived there. It's no fun. Don't do it. If somebody suggests that I look tired, I'm like, oh, I'm not hiding it well enough. Go buy more makeup, or not that I was going to wear it anyway, but there is within defensiveness a sense of not enoughness, a sense of that I'm a fraud, I'm fake. Now, as I stand up here and say that, does it all sound like it's kind of silly? Like we all know better? And in the midst of that, are you also going, oh, son of a motherless goat, I did that this morning? It's okay. It's okay if we slip, so long as we remember to come back. And eventually, that choice to daily reposition ourselves within the law will become habit. It will become the habit. Because the divine within us is always calling us home to itself. Always. There's a woman by the name of Kathleen. She died in 1997, but she wrote an incredibly important theological tome, which none of us will ever read, but it's called God for Us. And she summed it up at the end by saying, the nature of God, therefore, is to seek out the deepest possible communion and friendship with every last creature on this earth. Every last creature. Deepest possible relationship. Possible meaning that which we will allow. And so in order to have inner peace, we have to take that risk of true intimacy. We have to take the risk of letting a being, any being, including ourselves, be intimate with us. Intimacy could also be said as into me you see. Let me flip it around. Into me you see. See, you're a mirror of me right now. Funny how that worked out, huh? That level of intimacy, if you will risk it with the safest being that has ever been, the divine within you, if you will take the leap into that level of intimacy, if you will daily reverse your position in the law, if you will daily find a spiritual practice that works for you and then act on it, what you get from your prayer chair, then you stand up and go out into the world with, right? Ernest Holmes once wrote, inspiration without application is hallucination. Inspiration without application is hallucination. You're just sitting there having fun and spending your lottery winnings, basically, for a ticket you never bought. So what if, having gone to our prayer chair, having been inspired to do that which is ours to do, we went out and did it? Absolutely secure in the knowledge that we have this intimate relationship that we can come back to all the time, no matter where and no matter when. And it is from that relationship that our peace grows. What would your life look like if no one and nothing was against you? Let's find out. Let's go to prayer. Now, for those of you who are new, it might seem like I'm about to come out and sit next to you. I'm not. I pray from here because we should all be on a level praying field, is my belief. The words are coming out of me right now. You have the exact same power to create that I have. I happen to have a microphone. And so I'll ask you just to go within. Join with me in consciousness. Get centered, whatever it is you call it, when we do this thing called prayer. This deep, intimate communion with the divine that is within each and every one of us, that wants to express itself creatively through each and every one of us, as each and every one of us. The divine being is utterly safe. It is perfect grace. It is perfect love. It is power and peace. It is abundance. It is good health. It is joy. And we are all of that because we are made out of God's stuff and in the image and likeness of the divine. We share in that creative nature. And so in this moment, I just give thanks for what Spirit is already doing, expressing itself through us as perfect health, as abundance, as joy, as belonging